persons with disabilities what we are supposed to get some free medical checkups and things like that. He can then go to the Minister of Health and say, why are you not doing this? Because they are probably at the same level. And so we're saying the powers that are given to the minister are just too much. And just to take you back to the issue of best practices. For example, Kenya and Malawi. Malawi has got a commission. Kenya has got a council, and in Kenya they still liaise with the Minister of Social Welfare. I think they call it Social Welfare Affairs, but the council has got the sole responsibility of monitoring. The UNCRPD issues. The commission has got it's got a power over the ministry itself. So no one can come to them and say, what are you doing? I mean, they know how to handle things, and there's impartiality there, there's independence there. So this is what we would want to see happening.
If you're just joining us, this is The Exchange. This evening, we are unpacking the Persons with Disabilities Bill and speaking to various stakeholders when it comes to the rights enforcement, as well as recommendations around what that law should really look like to be able to actually protect and provide equal opportunities for all as the Constitution espouses. I am joined by Irene Sitole and Suzgo Mumba. Jules Dawood will be joining us in the second segment as we just unpack some of the concerns, chiefly that a lot of the submissions have not made their way into the bill at committee stage now. Also, some giving and taking away, giving with one hand, taking away with another, certain clawback clauses that are leaving certain things ambiguous, yet they should be quite clear. Irene, as we continue on, does the bill talk about issues of accessibility, education, perhaps participation in political life for persons with disabilities?
Yes, the bill does talk about those issues, but what we feel when we went through the bill and also the submissions that we made as persons with disabilities are that some of those provisions are not adequate. They need some enhancement, so we've made proposals in terms of even accessibility to say the bill refers to accessibility in terms of buildings that will be constructed maybe after the enactment of the bill. But we're looking at the structures that are there now, the buildings that are there now, even public buildings, government offices. You find that there are some even currently which are not accessible to persons with disabilities, particularly maybe wheelchair users and others also who need elevators in order to go up in double-story buildings and all that. So what we are saying is that the bill needed enhancement in terms of that. With the submissions that we had made were to say, let it also talk about what will happen in terms of buildings that are already constructed. When you are talking about education, even inclusive education, and that education should be free for persons with disabilities from early childhood development level, primary, secondary, undergrad, and masters, even to doctorate level, for to enable them to be able to access free education so that they are also not disadvantaged because they are a constituency that has been left behind. When we are looking at participation in political life, we see that elections, mostly persons with visual impairments have been talking about having ballot papers which are inaccessible formats for them. But that has not yet happened. So we are looking at this bill as an opportunity for that to be inserted into the bill so that persons with visual impairment can be able to exercise their constitutional right to vote during elections freely and in a manner that is comfortable to them.
Suzgo, coming back to you, I will have to ask you for, I think, your closing reflections on this issue, particularly any key asks you may have to Parliament and to members of the public to support the process and anything that may need to happen. We understand that the bill will be discussed in Parliament, may come back, may go back before it's actually enacted.
Okay, thank you, Rumbi. What I want to say to the men and women in Parliament, the honorable members in Parliament, they need to understand that they are also, something, that they are not, checking out is that they are also possible candidates of disability. I'll give you a story about myself. I became disabled at 38. I was very active and in business, doing very well, just like everybody else. And then, of course, a disability came my way. And this is the reason why I'm here, just to remind everyone else that disability, aiuye nekuda kuti munhu ada kuva, disability. It just comes. So we are saying this not just for us, but also for the generations to come. History will judge people who take away this freedom in a harsh way. Rita Marley, Judy Mowat sang a song called "He Who Feels It Knows It."
Who feels it knows it, absolutely.
Yes, because, I don't think these guys really know how we feel about the whole thing. And so this is why we are asking that we be included in most of these things so that, we know and we know exactly and help out, to get things, going. So history will judge you harshly. And I'm asking that even if they decide not to vote against this, if it goes to the Senate, the senators, I believe they are more mature. Again, our plea to the senators, if this comes, really think again. Because in drafting this bill, I think people are wrong. Listen to what people say. There is a report of what people spoke, and that must be respected. And, the president is on record and is well known for supporting persons with a disability. And Zimbabwe is known for supporting, disability issues. It's on record. But if we do not look after this, it will be an issue of a hero turned villain. So we need to understand that, and we need to think again. Thank you.
Suzgo, thank you so much for your views on this issue. I have to let you go so we can bring Jules into the conversation.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful to have had you
God
on.
bless you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Be blessed. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Irene, coming back to you whilst we get Jules on the line, let's talk about some of the gaps in the bill. What are some of the gaps that you would like to highlight?
14 seconds.
Okay, when we look at the bill, we see that there are also gaps, like you have mentioned, and I've mentioned also things that are missing. Like we look at the issue of a disability grant. That is very important, even in terms of best practice. We look at other nations internationally. There is always a disability grant for persons with disabilities. Why? Because we see that most persons with disabilities, there are some who are not able to work. Where we are saying we are moving away from the charity model, where we will be begging for assistance from persons, and we want to be independent and to work for ourselves. But we find that there are circumstances and where some persons with disabilities cannot work, either because they have multiple impairments or even that the disability is very severe. So those people, they would require now disability grants monthly, at a monthly stipend where they are getting some money from the state, because the state is the primary duty bearer when it comes to promoting and protecting the rights of persons with disabilities. And then we also see that within that bill, there is no offences section. There are no penalties or criminalization of any of the violations of the rights of persons with disabilities. But those offences were placed in the disability policy, and you know that in the disability policy they are useless there, because a policy is not the right document for them to be, because you cannot enforce a criminal offence which is in a policy. That is not legal. So we are saying those offences which are in the National Disability Policy, when they were put there at that time, we were told that they would then be transported into the disability law once it came into force. But now we are looking at the bill which is silent on those issues, like to say stigmatization of persons with disabilities, discrimination of persons with disabilities. In the policy, it is an offense to insult a person with a disability or to mock them in any way. Denying them access to public buildings is an offense in the policy. There are so many other offenses which are there, which I cannot mention now because of time. But they need to be imported into the bill, which is the right place for them, so that they are enforceable, so that police officers can arrest people and people can actually be prosecuted for that. And we also see that the bill is silent on the issue of tax exemptions and duty rebates for persons with disabilities. That has been an issue of concern, particularly for persons with albinism, because with the current laws that are there, they are tax exemptions and duty rebates, yes, but it's for particularly for persons with physical impairment, of which persons with albinism are not classified as persons with physical impairment. So they missed out on that benefit. So once we have that in the bill, then it will be clear that that applies to all persons with disabilities across the board. That's some of the gaps which I may just want to highlight. I cannot mention them all, maybe because of our time.
Thank you so much, Irene, painting quite a vivid picture there. We are now joined in the conversation by Jules Daudi. She's the board chairperson of Zimbabwe Blind Women Trust. Jules, good evening and welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Lumbi. Thank you very much. And hi, Irene. Who else is around?
We had Suzgo. We just had to let him go so we could bring you on board with our lines.
Right.
Jules, we're talking about this bill and some of the recommendations. Really, it's an open letter to Parliament, to parliamentarians. There's a concern. Perhaps you can give us your overview or maybe some of the recommendations you would make for this bill to actually feed into the issues as well as satisfy some of the needs for persons with disabilities.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Rumbi. Yeah, and I had the privilege to listen to Irene as she was highlighting some of the gaps. The recommendation that I would make to the parliamentarians, I know they have been working well and they've been working very hard, but there are glaring gaps which really need addressed before the next session. And it's not a very difficult task, given the fact that Zimbabwe has ratified international and regional instruments which actually speak to some of the gaps that Irene was highlighting. So my recommendation really would be for the Parliament to go back to the UN CRPD as well as the Africa Disability Protocol. The protocol actually contextualizes some of the rights within the African context. For example, when Irene was talking about tax rebates and the gap in the implementation of the law for rebates, it's actually